Один из самых известных раввинов нашего времени, Маниса Фридман, в прямом эфире отвечает на вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества – Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш имейл info@rusa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 347 460 08 77.
Добрый день всем, кто сейчас настроен на радио USA. В эфире передача Thank God It's Tuesday. Самая нужная передача в наше время. И вопрос, потому что ведет ее, конечно, самые мудрые, самый раввин нашего времени, раввин Маниса Фридман. И каждую неделю он нам дает много света, понимания того, что происходит. Совершенно такой самый четкой, самой правдивой точки зрения, с точки еврейской мудрости, Торы. И сегодня вопрос, с которым я к нему хочу обратиться, это не послужило ли 7 октября еще большей путаницы и разделения нашего мира? А вот что точно я подразумеваю под этим вопросом, мы узнаем, когда мы перейдем на английский язык и начнем нашу беседу с раввином Манисом Фридманом. Rabbi Manis Friedman, hello, thank God it's Tuesday. And the question that I have for you today is, did the occurrence, the tragedy of October 7th, resulted in more confusion and division of our world? We were pretty divided before, but at least it was kind of clear. We had the left side, the right side. The left side stood for pro-abortion, pro-vaxxing, LGBTQ. The right side stood more for family values, a right to choose to vax or not vax, to pro-life. So we always had this division, and as Torah people, we related more to the right side, seemed to be the more moral side, the side that, has more in common with the Torah values. And after October 7th, things seem to have gotten confused one more time. And what I mean by that, it seems that those who are on the left are supporting the war in Israel and believes Israel has the right to defend itself. Now, the people on the right are leaning more towards ceasefire, and it seems that the biggest question for everybody right now is which side to choose. So there's more confusion in this respect. I mean, we had some clear lines before, and now we don't. So can you explain to me to us, of why it is happening? And I personally see a lot of problems with that, but I will keep my opinion to a later time of our program. Can you explain to me why this shift has happened after October 7th?
Well, I guess the surprising thing is that people who are pro-life are also pro-ceasefire. So on the surface, it sounds consistent. Ceasefire saves lives. So if you're pro-life, you want to see life preserved. A ceasefire would preserve lives. But that's not true. The ceasefire will not preserve life. The ceasefire will allow the chaos and the murders to go on after a break. So we can't be that short-sighted. And I guess what we're seeing is pro-life without godliness. In other words, human pro-life, like everything else human, is imperfect. It doesn't apply in all times and in all cases. Whereas godly pro-life is always true and is always right. So in this case, pro-life is no ceasefire. That is pro-life. Because if you don't do anything to stop murder, how are you pro-life? If you're not anti-murder, how can you be pro-life? Can't have it both ways. So that's where the confusion is. In the short term, if you're short-sighted, ceasefire sounds like preserving life. But we've done that for 70 years. It didn't preserve life. It just encouraged murder.
Rabbi Friedman, then I have to ask another question. There's another person who is extremely pro-life and pro-family values and who is all out there conducting a war, and I'm talking about Putin right now. The things he's coming up with lately, the laws he's supporting families having lots of children. He's giving money to mothers to stay home, letting his people, helping his people acquire real estate if they produce a lot of children. They even have some kind of I don't know if it's a law yet, but at least it's an idea that women do not need higher education because they should concentrate on the more important things. And we had those conversations a lot with you that this is, the moral thing to do. Yet having this moral aspect, this leader has started a war and is killing people and is not stopping with. There is no ceasefire when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. How do we see this one?
Where was he when I needed him? When I was raising a family. It is so mixed. The surprises just keep on coming. All of a sudden, the good guy is bad, the bad guy is good. Good in what? Good in... This is the mess that we're in. Human morality. So one day you feel that this is right, the next day you realize it's not, so you switch and all of a sudden that's right. It's torture. Anyone with a little bit of a conscience is torn apart. And not knowing what's the right way is more painful than violence. And that's what the world is going through right now. Interesting, the Medrash says that before Mashiach comes, a Persian king will go to war with an Arab king. And they will destroy the world. And everyone will panic and will say, where should we go? Where should we go? So if he destroys the whole world, who's panicking? Who's asking, where should we go if the whole world is destroyed? It doesn't mean physically. The world is not going to be destroyed physically. God will never allow that. The whole world is destroyed in an even more painful way. We don't know where to go. We don't know which way to turn. Not to protect ourselves, to find the right way, to know what's right. People who don't care, they're fine. Unfortunately, those who do care are suffering serious moral agony. So all of this is going to cook out, and when the boiling stops, we will see what we have, and it's going to be a lot better than what we used to have.
Rabbi Friedman, during all this confusion, there's one thing that is really, really scary, and that is anti-Semitism. Because those right conservative seem to have like moral people. Now, I'll name the names. I'm talking about Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, even President Trump. We kind of counted on this morality and strong stances for the right, for the moral, for the, even godly. They all have God in their lives. And right now we see that they are not taking a definite stance. They're, and even though I'm not talking about President Trump right now, but the last conversation Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson had on his show, which is, they're influencers, billions of people watch them at one point or another. They're kind of blaming the Jews. In this last conversation, there was a blame factor. Good thing the Jewish people who have funded colleges pulled the funds, but where were they before when, when there was racism in those colleges and white students were oppressed and called the white devil or whatever. We know all what we're talking about there. So now they're saying, okay, good thing you pulled the funds, but where were you when all of this was happening? So now you walk up. So, again, blame the Jew. Okay, and yeah, their position is also very clear. Again, I'm going by them because they are the influencers of today's society. So yeah, it's like, do we choose between Palestine and Israel? No, I choose America. This is the new thing. I choose America. All the bloggers are doing that because they don't know which choice will make them more popular. So it's like neither. I'll go with America. It's like, okay, but where is this leading us?
Isn't that funny?
Hilarious.
On the one hand, where were you when other people other than Jews are suffering? Where are the Jews when others are suffering? And then they take the position, we just take care of Americans. So Jews are not allowed to just take care of Jews. They have to care about everybody. But America can think only about America. It's so confused. It's talking out of both sides of their brain. I don't think they're bad people, and I wouldn't call them anti-Semitic. But confusion attacks everybody. In their good intentions, they're confused. It's not anti-Semitism. It's moral confusion. And they're trying so hard to say the right thing and be on the right side, and they can't find it. They can't find the right side. They can't identify it. So really, it's a lack of knowledge, a lack of wisdom, and primarily a lack of Torah guidance. Human beings trying to be moral. It's very noble in its attempt, but it hasn't always led to good conclusions. So we need to be more outspoken. More, not less.
This is another thing that I hear from a lot of people. There is fear. There is fear amongst Jewish people. People do not feel safe anymore because of this confusion. And that confusion, unfortunately, we can't not think about what happened 75 years ago. We can't, 80. We can't not go back and compare and be fearful. And a lot of people are. That, this again can lead to genocide of our people because of this confusion, because of this propaganda, because of this lack of morality. And the most popular question that I hear among those who are scared, well, it happened before. What's going to prevent it from happening again? We thought we will see Mashiach, we will see redemption 80 years ago, and it didn't happen for us. What makes us sure that this is the time that it will? Because it's more global this time. It's not even in one country anymore. So, what would you say to people about to that question?
Well, the only thing that kept us safe in the past was God's protection. We have it now more than ever. There's really no rational reason to assume negative, terrible things. That's just playing into the fear and into the anxiety. And if in fact we are frightened, then what is the solution? Strengthen yourself. If you're feeling attacked, in fact, I'll even quote Candace Owen. Somebody said very, very sensitive during her speech somewhere, said, "From what you're saying, you're making me feel very insecure. I'm feeling very frightened right now. I'm feeling very unsafe." She says, "Well, put on a helmet." If you're feeling unsafe, so strengthen yourself, protect yourself. How do we protect ourselves against a world? By having the creator of the world on our side. By being more Jewish, by being more confident, by standing up straighter, not by apologizing, by begging, by falling for the fear. So can it happen again? It could happen any day of any year on the calendar of history. So yes, it can happen. But that's what paranoia means, to be afraid of something because it could happen. Yes, it could happen. Mashiach can come also, That also could happen. So why aren't you excited about that and just frightened about the other could happen? So the real solution is, you're trying to scare me? Well, then I will have more confidence, I will have more courage, and you will not get to me. That's the least we can do. Before we turn to political influences, pulling strings, using connections, whatever, the main thing is, are we confused? Do we no longer know that we're right? What others think is not that important. Do we know that we're right? Can we speak to the world with confidence? Whenever we do, it always works. It always works. But we haven't done it very often. There were little moments, glimpses in history where we stood up strong and we said what we needed to say, and of course it turned into a Purim or into a Hanukkah or into an Independence Day. So whenever we're strong, we beat the odds. The numbers don't matter. The shouting, the screaming, the hysteria doesn't matter. If we are who we're supposed to be, we're here for keeps. That's not faith. That's history. It's saying it has happened before. Holocaust happened once. Our survival happened 100 times. Against all odds.
Rabbi Friedman, we also are being a little bit, another thing that I heard in that conversation is that we Jewish people, we of course take what is happening in Israel right now personally, and we want the rest of the world to take it personally. And we can't be expecting it from others.
Exactly.
But I gotta say, one of our conversations that we had, you said that the best us is when we go outside of personally and care about others more than about ourselves. So right now, I do kind of personally draw a parallel between how I reacted to the war in Ukraine and keep on reacting to the war in Ukraine, and how I'm reacting to the war in Israel. And I gotta say, the war in Israel is a lot more personal to me. I'm sorry to say, but it's a lot more personal to me.
Nothing to be sorry about.
And I kind of started to feel ashamed because of that. Because is that the right thing? And what are we expecting of the world? Can we expect the world to feel what we're feeling? Is that right? Wrong? Should we lower our expectations? Should we change our perspective in any way?
I think our perspective should have been consistent through all the years. We're not asking anyone to be our mothers and fathers. If America wants to do what's best for America, perfect, go right ahead. What's best for America happens to be a good relationship with Israel, which is best for America. You want to be best for the Palestinians? Good luck. Not going to do you much good. So, yes, America should be for America, and Palestinians should be for Palestinians. Or Arabs should support fellow Arabs. That would be nice. It's not happening. So imagine you're more concerned with a political development than with your own children. How moral is that? It's not moral at all. If you can't put your children first and your family first, you haven't gotten to first base in morality. And in some ways, that's what's happening with these human shields and sacrifice your own people in order to make some PR victories for political reasons, even for religious reasons. So you sacrifice your children? Something is more important? So it's unreasonable, it's unrealistic, and it isn't moral to ask other people to bleed for you. You bleed for your own. That's the right way. That's normal. Of course, you don't encourage violence. You don't support violence anywhere. But if we don't put our own people first, there's no way we're going to be moral for others. It's got to start at home. So there's nothing to be ashamed of or to apologize for. When our fellow Jews are being attacked, I feel attacked. When Ukraine is attacked, I don't feel attacked. I may disapprove, I may think it's terrible, I may even condemn it if you ask my opinion. Nobody's asking my opinion. So I should feel the same grief that I feel for my own? How could that possibly be true?
So the position that the Jewish world took with Candace Owens, talking about the newspaper that has supported her initially very much and actually probably promoted her in the beginning, right now kind of excommunicated her for taking the stand that she said. But she said exactly what you just said. She said that this is not personal, and I'm against violence. I'm against violence on both sides. And a lot of people are taking this position. Is that a position we should take very negatively, be worried about, or is it something that we should be okay with?
I think it's another example of human morality that is without content. Who is not against violence of any type? Who? Who is not against violence? So to say I'm against violence on both sides. Wow, you're such a tzaddik. Of course you're against violence. Problem is, there is violence. What do you recommend we do? It's not enough to say I'm against violence. It means nothing. I mean, the people who are suffering from the violence are certainly against violence. But they have to pick a side because they're the ones being attacked. So if you think you're right and if you think that you're doing the right thing, then be strong and fight violence with violence. Once you realize I'm wrong, I'm just doing this because I like violence, then roll out the white flag and surrender. That would be the right thing in the presence of violence. But to say I'm against violence, yeah. I'm against death. I don't think anybody should die.
Rabbi Friedman, but
Ever.
of course. Rabbi Friedman, but should we demand from people to choose sides? Should we be upset if they don't? Should we be worried if they don't?
Well, if you hear what people are saying, it doesn't really matter to us. It's more of people revealing themselves in their opinions. So when you hear people defending Hamas, you know what kind of people they are. It's self-revelation. To Israel, it makes very little difference. We got to do what we got to do because it's the right thing to do, and we really don't have much of a choice. So we do it, and we do it with confidence, because right is right. There are people who don't like us, so we should hesitate, so we should not defend ourselves. I mean, what's the issue? So when people go out into the streets, they tell you who they are, at least morally. Either wicked, either vicious, confused, or sensitive and moral. But it's more on them than on us. It says more about them than it says about us.
Rabbi Friedman, we also got like a lot of new categories to deal with right now. So, I mean, now people identify themselves as some extreme, some moderate, some radical, some conservative, some progressive. And, there's more of that happening all over. And it's a little difficult to keep up with. But, again, this is adding to the confusion. I mean, how much more confusion are we up against, and what do we need to do in this position? I mean, we need to still function in this world, go to work, and, people are having difficulty there too, because at work, certain things are demanded of them to take positions, to take stands, to act accordingly, whatever that means, in accordance to a company they work for. So there's a lot more sensitivity that we're up against right now. I don't know if sensitivity is the right word. I wouldn't use that word, but that's what is being used out there. So, and how do we deal with it? I mean, we definitely have a very strong position as Jewish people of where we stand, but then we are demanded to take certain positions and certain sides. And how do we act in our place of work, in social circles?
In a time of crisis, in a time of war, there are heroes and there are villains. Those are the choices. People have to be either heroic or on the wrong side of the issue. The silent majority, those who are moderates and who are, those are titles, it's really irrelevant. If you're not a hero, you're not a hero. And if you're on the wrong side, you're on the wrong side. You may have good intentions, you may be out of ignorance, but you're on the wrong side. And that's how it's going to go down in the record book. You were on the wrong side, or you were a hero. So moderate in time of war is nonsense. Nobody needs moderate right now. In truth, we never really need moderate. The heroes are not moderate and the villains are not moderate. Let's talk about something positive for a minute.
Please.
Much of our history and our education as Jews has prepared us to live in a world full of paradoxes. We're the minority, but we outlive everybody. Okay, we're used to it by now. You're right, it doesn't make sense. It's a paradox. We are a paradox. We live by paradox. How did we get used to it? It started with the Torah. If you understand Torah properly, the way it's meant to be understood, God created the world. That's a paradox. God has no business creating a world. Creating a physical universe is a menial task for the King of Kings. Kings don't get their hands dirty. They don't create physical structures. They hire people to do that. God created the world. There was no one to hire. It's a paradox. If you read it superficially, God created the heaven and the earth. Wow, he's so talented. He's so powerful. He's so... No. It's degrading. It's a paradox, not a compliment. What is God, who is infinite and perfect, and what's he doing creating a world? It's counterintuitive. God sends a little piece of himself and breathes it into us so that we're walking around with little pieces of him. That's a paradox. God can't be divided into pieces, and why would anybody want to be divided into pieces? This goes against common sense. It goes against morality even. Sending a soul from heaven down to earth into a body, it doesn't sound like a moral thing to do. The soul is a very sensitive, godly thing. Leave it in heaven where it belongs. God comes down to Mount Sinai and introduces himself and says, get to know me. Get to know God. Another paradox. God is unknowable. So how do we get to know him if he is essentially unknowable? The Torah is full of paradoxes. Almost every statement, every story, full of paradoxes. Jews were slaves in Egypt. Egypt was very powerful. No slave had ever escaped. No individual single slave has ever escaped. And here, 2 million people just walk out with no resistance, with no... Okay, it's a paradox. You can call it a miracle, you can call it a plague. The fact is, things happen that really have no business happening. God creates a world, he really shouldn't. God wants to be known, he can't. God is sensitive and concerned for godly things, and yet he sends a godly soul down into this world full of surprises. But this is the whole point of the whole thing. There is a natural condition that God created that has no redeeming social value. The universe is not good. It's pretty. It's awesomely pretty. It's not good. It's full of pain. It's full of darkness. It's full of evil. The good is a relief, but it's not as good as heaven. So the whole creation is just a big puzzle. What for? Why? And on the other hand, this lowest of all worlds will become the highest and the most godly of all worlds. Paradox, yes. So when the people we depended on as our friends, allies, and supporters turn around and become our enemy, okay, another surprise, another paradox. We can handle it. If the whole world is against you, how do you plan to survive? You know who you're talking to? The paradox people. So now we're not intimidated by facts. We're more interested in truth. Facts are not so nice. Truth is awesome. The world is starting to catch on. I think it's really, talk about a paradox. People who take to the streets in support of Hamas, or Palestinians, or Ukrainians, or Russians, all over the world, what, they have nothing better to do? Don't you have any selfish interests to look into? Why are you hours and hours traveling to get to the march, to walk the march, many hours and expenses? What drives this? I'm not asking who's paying for it. That's a different question. Somebody's bankrolling this whole thing, of course, but why do people have free time? Why would they take time out of their private lives, personal lives, and march and scream and howl about things they know nothing about, they have no connection to? You ask the average protester in the streets, how far is it from Gaza to the Ukraine? They have no idea where either one of them is. They have no idea. Is it possible that a rocket meant to land in Ukraine could accidentally land in Gaza? Well, I guess if it's a big rocket, they have no idea. But they feel a need to transcend their own interests and be of service. They got it all wrong. They're totally fablunged. They're on the wrong side of every issue. But they're not on their own side. That's good. Now it's just a question of finding your compass and facing the right direction. But you're already out in the streets. You've already compromised on your own needs, on your selfish needs. That's great. Now just turn around and face the right way. So the world is getting better. And the people that scream with all the passion of their soul, pro-Palestinian, save Palestine, free Palestine. When did it become your problem? What is your interest in this matter? Nothing personal. It's admirable. But if you're going to be admirable, do it in the name of God. If you're going to pursue justice, pursue divine justice. If you're going to be moral like the Ten Commandments.
Rabbi Fridman, amazing. Thank you so, so much. Israel is definitely becoming more and more godly with every second. Everything we get from there, it's all about one message and one message only. Let's unite to serve God and together. And yeah, if we need to see goodness, it's definitely there. And may it's just grow and blossom. So
Jews need to keep their heads high and make their voices heard. Is it not a miracle or a paradox that we are such a tiny, tiny fragment both of the globe, state of Israel, and the people of Israel, Jews? We're such a tiny minority. We're such an insignificant part of the world, and yet the attention of the whole world is once again on Jerusalem. It's got to tell you something. God keeps moving the spotlight back to us every now and then, every couple of years. The spotlight is on us. We have the microphone, and we can say whatever we want to say. And we need to say something.
Rabbi Fridman, and thank you for doing that, exactly that, all your life, because you are really, really setting us straight. And I cannot thank you enough for allocating this time to Radio USA and speaking to our community and answering the questions that we have. And it's amazing. Thank you so, so much. I hope that next week we'll see and hear more good news, and we'll have a lot more happy things to talk about, or at least with your help, see the goodness and wherever we don't see the goodness. And thank you so, so much, Rabbi Fridman. And every Tuesday, I say, thank God it's Tuesday.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we will see good things.
Bezrat Hashem. Аминь. Аминь. Thank you so, so much. И спасибо всем, кто нас слушает каждую неделю в это время. Пожалуйста, не останавливайтесь только на этом времени. У Рабби Фридмана есть очень много других ресурсов, где он просто совершенно дает феноменальную информацию. Зайдите на его YouTube-канал Rabbi Manis Fridman или itsgoodtoknow.org. И у него есть интерактивные классы несколько раз в неделю и специальные какие-то сессии, которые очень-очень помогают видеть мир правильно, быть сильными, быть светлыми и помогать другим в том же. Вот с этими словами я Аня Пекерман и передача Thank God It's Tuesday. Прощаемся со всеми до следующей недели.